Hello and welcome to Game Changers with Vicki Abelson. Where is Vicki Abelson? Where? Oh, where? I don't know. But all I do know is that Leland Sklar is right over there. Leland Sklar, and sitting next to him is Tristan Cappel, and they're going to treat us to a little tune before we start chatting. So take it away, boys.
Surgery, Lee.
Really?
Yes. I am.
I didn't know you owned a cataract. Oh, you mean eyes. I thought you owned a car.
Oh, God. A catamaran. What is that?
A cataract. Not a Lincoln, it's a cataract.
Oh, a cataract when you're...
Work with me, babe. Work with me.
So that's a little, it's Asian hate is what it is.
No, we're not going there. There's too much of that in this world.
There is. So Lee, you know,
madness.
I'm trying to get the page up so that we can talk to people, but maybe Samantha will help us and she'll... No. On the little desk to the side by the window, there's a pair of black glasses sticking out of a holder. Because I need glasses everywhere. So Lee, how long have you been wearing glasses?
Since I was about 4.
Since you were 4. And does it like ever change, or is it?
It's so weird. I sit here and go, my eyes are getting so bad. I go to the eye doctor and he goes, Well, they're getting better. The prescriptions now too bad. So I figure if I live to be 125, I may not need. But past 2 days I've been in the studio, and they're the first sessions I've ever done where I didn't wear glasses. Just to see the charts.
All right. So I just want you to know, I keep touching him because Lee is my favorite, and my first in-person interview.
Yeah, I'm thrilled.
And you were one of my, January. We did it, but it wasn't that long before the thing.
Everything went to hell pretty quickly after that.
We're going to talk about that because for those of you who want to know like Lee's full history and everything, we did like 2.5 hours on the first one. No, we did like 2.5 hours, and then we did like another 2 hours in September or something. Yeah. But what I really want to talk to you about today are current events, because you've got so much going on in your life. And for those of you who don't know, the first time you were on the show, Lee, you talked about your coffee table book that you were aspiring to do.
Yeah.
Now that was a year and a few months ago.
Yeah.
Can we see the evidence?
Absolutely. I'd be proud to excuse me while I whip this out.
Whip it out. That's what he said.
Whip it good.
Whip it good. Okay.
So we've got it's a big, heavy
it
padded
feels
cover.
Really nice.
Yeah, there's 6,000 photographs in it of people giving me the finger.
Okay, so now what inspired the giving of the finger?
Okay, there's an explanation in the book, but I'll give you a
story,
synopsis.
but we have to tell people.
When I was on the road with Phil Collins in 2004 doing our first final farewell tour, there was talk during the tour that Phil might retire at the end of the tour. Mm-hmm. He had to leave and go.
Wait, what year was that?
2004.
You said that. I'm sorry, but now is that before he actually did take off for a while?
Well, he did take off after that. They did one more Genesis tour, I think, in 2007. That was already committed to, but he had to leave. Our tour, we still had, I think, a couple of legs of the tour left to go Africa and Southeast Asia, but he had written the music for Tarzan on Broadway. And the producers wanted him to be there. Okay. So they had to cancel these 2 legs of our tour. And I think by then he was just ready to pack it in. He was pissed off that he had to leave. And, it was all this stuff. But so there was this talk of him retiring.
Does he love touring?
He did at the time.
Okay.
Genesis is just getting ready to hit the road. So.
Oh, we have to talk about that, how that's starting to unfold again.
So, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So there was this talk of him retiring, and I thought, we had probably 100 crew people on the road with us.
Wow.
And I thought, I may never see a lot of these people again if he packs it in.
Right.
Because they were from all over the States, all over Europe.
And how long had you been playing with Phil?
I started with him in '84.
Which is so insane.
Yeah.
Is that pre The Air Tonight? Is it?
No, In the Air Tonight was in '82.
Okay, so just before.
And he had called me then to work with him, but I was already committed to a James Taylor project, and I couldn't do it. But I told Phil, I said, because Phil and I met doing a Lee Ritenour record. Lee hired both of us to do a couple of tracks on his album.
Really?
Back in like 80, 81 or something like that.
So that was before Phil broke.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when this tour was happening, and it sounded like this, I decided to take pictures of everybody on the tour, just to make a folder for myself, for my own little memory book.
Right.
And they had hired a bass tech for me on the tour, a guy named Steve Winstead. His nickname was Chinner. Because he had a big beard and a chin. Most people show up with a nickname.
Okay.
And sometimes you don't want to ask where it came from because it could get really creepy.
What's your nickname, Lee?
I have no idea what people call me. In college, I was called Buffalo because I wore a lot of like buckskin and stuff. I mean, I wasn't.
Do you remember those buffalo sandals?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember those? Yeah, I had plenty of those.
Oh, those were great.
You get them wet and then
squaw boots and all that stuff from those days. I still have my fringe jacket. And
so do I.
Oh,
we have to hit the town one night with our fringe.
We will go out there. So they hired this guy for me, and normally I had always done my own tech on the road. I was pretty self-sufficient, so he showed up. I think he had been on a tour where the bass player had like 10 basses, and he wanted new strings every night on all of them and all this. So he came in like hungry. He's like, "What do you need? What do you need?"
Wait, are you high maintenance?
I'm so low maintenance, sickening.
Okay, so what is it like for your bass tech?
That was the problem. He said, "What do you need?" And I said, "Nothing." So
Nothing?
basically, I said, "I guess just have my amp on stage and make sure it goes on." And
So you don't want your bass tech tuning you up or anything like that?
I wasn't a big fan of that because I figured it's my butt on stage. If anything goes wrong, I'm the one that looks bad.
Yeah.
So,
I get
but
that.
he was really good. But he ended up doing some work for me. But then they had him doing like general work, like helping the singers and and drums and all that stuff.
Right.
Worked with everybody. So it got to the end of this thing, and I decided to make my little folder. And Steve was sitting there at his laptop working away, and I walked up and I said, "Hey, Steve, give me a smile." And without breaking stride, he just gave me the finger.
Wow.
And I looked at the picture and I went, "Ooh, this is kind of good."
This is in 2004? It didn't
2004.
start till 2004?
Yeah, didn't start to 2004.
Wow.
And so I looked at that, and then I decided to do the whole thing like that. I went to Phil, I went to Tony Smith, his manager, everybody in the band, everybody in the crew, caterers, truck drivers, bus drivers, everybody.
Cheat for the...
I ended up with probably about 150 pictures into that. And I put it away. I made my little folder and put it in my computer. A couple of years later, I went on the road with Toto. And I thought, ooh, that was kind of fun to do that. So let's do the guys in Toto and the whole crew and everybody.
Right.
By that point, it got up to about 300 pictures, and I kind of went, this is turning into something different. And at this point now, this book has 6,000 photographs in it, but I have over 12,000 photographs.
How did you decide?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I did this book with a friend of mine, Richard Tremarchi, whose nickname is Blue, and he owns a company. I want to get it.
Okay, just while you're looking,
Artworks.
Are there stories in there, or is it just pictures?
It's all pictures.
It's all pictures.
It's all pictures, and I didn't designate celebrity, non-celebrity. To me, this is a book about humanity.
Are they labeled?
Nope.
No label. So it's all
pictures.
visual.
It's all visual.
I love this.
So we put this thing together, and I self-published it. Had them all printed, and I've got a warehouse here in Pasadena that's got 10. Well, I've sold 3,000. I printed 10,000 of
They're
these things.
so nice. They're such high quality.
Yeah, that was the thing. We decided if we were going to do it, let's make it right.
I mean, it really.
And the paper,
Is it paper?
The thing weighs 6 pounds.
Oh my God! I just opened to a random page. I have no idea who these people are, but I'm.
But
It's
but you might find a fabulous page.
I'm sure. I have no doubt. Did I just see Jackson? Wait.
Oh, Jackson's in there.
I'm sure.
Oh God, let's make it.
Go to a fabulous page. Oh my God, Lee, I'm enormous.
You're enormous. There's.
Oh my God.
Vicki is in the book. That was my first picture in the book. Is you. I had to have a standard bearer.
Oh my God, Lee, I'm enormous.
You are.
I'm so
You're a superstar.
honored and flattered.
So it's all of humanity is in this thing.
my God.
It's the craziest grouping of people in here.
Oh my.
Well,
okay, you're in this now. I thought you didn't put any in that you didn't take.
It's my camera, but I had somebody take it because this is the guy I worked with yesterday. This is Brett McKenzie from Flock of Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, I love that.
And he's
show.
down in New Zealand right now.
Wow.
So we just finished his album yesterday.
Wow.
There's Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh my God. So there's crazy ass. So just name off a few people that people might know, and then tell us a couple of stories of regular people and why you put them in.
It's got Phil Collins and James Taylor and Jackson Brown and Linda Ronstadt and Bonnie Raitt and Melissa Etheridge, Jeff Beck, Jack Bruce.
Crazy.
You kind of Jay Leno. There are Joe Bonamassa, Steve Vai, all the musicians there. But athletes like Bernie Williams from the New York Yankees, Charles Barkley, is in there. Esperanza Spalding, Hans Zimmer.
Wow. How'd you get Hans Zimmer?
I worked a bunch of things with Hans Zimmer.
Oh, there's Stephen Bishop.
There's Stephen Bishop. There's Kevin Bacon.
Wait, you have to
Loeb.
show Kevin Bacon because everything is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon there.
There's Kevin Bacon. There's Lisa Loeb right down in there.
Fantastic.
Rick Rosas.
Stephen
Bishop.
Rick died.
Yeah, Rick died. But let me just. There's Brian Ferry and Esperanza Spalding.
I just saw Brian Ferry at the, not at the Hollywood Bowl, but the other one. What is the other one called?
Greek.
Yes, at the Greek.
Oh, really?
I saw him right before, like a few months before lockdown.
There's
The last month.
Jeremy Irons.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
Let's show
Jeremy Irons.
How do you know Jeremy?
I was on a cruise with him, and I got everybody.
Was it Love at First Sight?
Oh no, there was so much affection involved, and it was Sean Penn.
Oh no, let's see Sean Penn.
There's Sean Penn.
Oh, there's Waddy.
And there's Waddy. Paul Reiser.
Where's Paul?
There's Sean Penn. There's Waddy Wachtel. There's Paul Reiser.
Now, how do you know Sean Penn?
I was at a function and he was there, and it's like.
And how about Paul Reiser?
I met Paul in Nashville, and the thing is,
Would you give me the finger?
I just go up to people and say, "Come on, flip me off," and they believe me, and I go, "Come on," and they go, "Ugh." And one of my favorite pictures, though, it means so much to me. This is the next to last page. Is this gentleman right here? I'll turn it around. This is Theodore Lynn. He was my music teacher in junior high and high school, and he's the guy that turned me on to bass. And we hooked up just before he passed from cancer. And so I spent a couple of days hanging out with him. And so
that's
I was so glad to kind of dedicate, put him in here.
And you did give him a little blurb on
Oh, and there's a couple of blurbs. There's Paula Dean, she's the Southern chef.
There we go. I love that. Some of them are just like really big birds.
Oh, there's Katie Seagal.
Fantastic. She's got a new show out.
I know.
Who is this?
He was on a project that I did. There's Steve Tyler.
Oh, wow. All right, let's show Steven Tyler.
There's Steven Tyler, and that was when we were doing John Lennon's 80th birthday, or 75th, whatever it was, at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
There's Randy Newman.
Oh,
Randy Newman is right. But then there's a lot of just average people on the streets.
So like what got
Katie Lang.
Oh God, wow, that's a real
There's Donnie Most in Your House.
That's great. Let's show that.
Yeah.
Donnie Most at Women Who Write. There he is.
Right there. I grabbed him that day and said, "Come, I probably owe you some money for that."
So what was the criteria that got there's Steve Dorff, he did that too. What was the criteria that got people that are not famous in the book? A good bird? What might it be?
I think it was just the fact that I really. First off, the thing I love about this book is not this.
Okay.
It's this. So when you look through this, when you've empowered people to give the finger, it's in their face. There's like a half a dozen ways of giving the finger. Like David Crosby's like doing things like this, and James Taylor uses that finger and said this, and Jack Black went, "You want balls or no balls? And what do you want?" But
you guys are allowed to laugh out loud, by the way. That's okay.
But the faces are infinite, and so for me, the real pleasure is really looking at people's faces when they do it. Marilyn Martin, who sang "Separate Lives" with Phil Collins, like she came to one of Phil Collins' gigs, and I got her in the corner and I said, "Come on," and she's like this. Everybody's different, so you get the whole gamut. But
you get a lot of personality.
A lot of personality,
right.
And then the thing that was fun with this is the first page of it is all. It's all babies.
Okay, so wait, you have to tell me my favorite story about the book, about the youngest person, but that's not in the book.
It's not in the book. It was a friend of mine's daughter was pregnant, and when they did the ultrasound, there's a little hand in the ultrasound going like this. Yeah, I went, you can never start too early.
And you didn't put it in the book because...
I didn't put it because the resolution. A lot of the decisions were made based on when we really started looking at things and getting them up to like the pixelation and all that.
Right.
Because we really didn't want to have things that were out of focus or anything like that. but also just having, I mean, I suddenly realized that I had 2 great pictures of Yo-Yo Ma, and they're not in the book. I thought they were. And when we played Tanglewood with James Taylor and Carole King, Yo-Yo came and played, and I said, "Come on, you got to give me the finger." And he pulls out a big scissor, and he's going like this, pretending he's cutting his finger off. I said, "No, I want you to give me the finger. Don't give me your finger. Just give me the goddamn finger." And it was great. It was really great. But I'm suddenly looking at pictures like Vince Gill and Garth Brooks, a bunch of people that aren't in the book. So we're doing something special now that is still in the planning stage, but there'll be like some bonus things and things like that. So it's been an adventure. Plus, every day I'm going to the post office mailing these, and I've had some amazingly horrible experiences.
Like what?
Well, my wife, one of her best friends, lives in Athens.
Okay. Athens, Greece?
Greece. So
Okay.
she ordered 3 books, I think.
I can't even imagine what the postage is to Athens, Greece.
Well, I shipped them to her. Everything was great. They were in major lockdown in Greece.
Right.
So it got to Greece, and they never delivered them. They were sitting in the post office for over a month and a half.
Oh, God.
And then she finally, and they were in serious lockdown, but she finally went to the post office and said, "I've been expecting, what's going on?" They said, "Oh, nobody picked them up, we sent them back." So suddenly I've got the books back again after like $400 worth of postage or something. And then I reimbursed everything on it, and then we FedExed them to her because she wanted them, and she just said, "Fine, I can't go." And I had somebody in Iceland write to me, and they said they went to pick theirs up at the post office, and the box was totally crushed and soaking wet.
Oh.
And they're all calling me.
Right.
Going,
Right.
"So what can you do about this?" And I'm suddenly going, I need to make a T-shirt that says I was not made for retail. Because
So you have to deal with that?
I'm dealing with everything. I am customer service.
Yes.
I created a website for it, and I went to see it, just like get lelandsklar.com.
Right.
Gone. Somebody owned it. I went to get leesklar.com. Gone. Somebody probably got these domains, assuming that someday I may need them,
And then
then
you
they
have to
could
buy
bring
it.
me. I'd have to buy it. So I said, "The hell with that." So my website is lelandsklar'sbeard.com. Now, so if you go on the website, the book is there, and they can order the book. It's $60 just for the book, or $80 personalized sign. And also on there, I did T-shirts. So I now have T-shirts that have my beard on the front of the T-shirts.
Just your beard?
My beard. So I've got all these pictures that.
It must not be a white T-shirt.
It's a black T-shirt with a white beard, and so all these people are sending me pictures of them all walking around with my beard on their shirt. And then I was a graphic artist in school, so I've got all my artwork is on the website too. We've got it all in really high-end, limited number fine art prints. So I've been busy as hell.
And this is what I want to talk to you about. You are a rascal.
I'm a rascal.
Because
And you feed me so well. While you're talking, I'm going to eat a chip.
Eat. I wanted to just look and see who's saying hi to you. See, they say 22 people are watching. It's just not possible, Lee. It's just too annoying.
That's too many people for us.
Hi, Rob. Hi, John. Hi, Toby. Hi, Tova. Oh, wait, there's a lot more people. I don't know. If you guys are asking questions, I'm not... oh, God. All right. Hi, Maria.
Take your time and do that. I'm not going anywhere.
All right, he's going to eat. Let me just say hi to him.
I'm just going to dig you.
You're just going to dig me. It's so fitting for you. Lee and I have not known each other long. I met you the first time at that benefit concert. God, Stephen Bishop was on, and
Yeah.
Dolan.
No,
What was that?
oh God, I'm blanking. He just went through a medical procedure this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's doing okay.
Oh, good.
It was some kind of a thing for brain function.
And John Gilliton was the musical director, and it was a fantastic. Dionne Warwick was great.
Chaka Khan came.
Chaka Khan, it was fantastic.
And you were there.
And I was there. I just kind of threw myself at you when you
Yeah.
came out of the green room. I had to meet you because I played bass for 5 minutes.
I know.
And,
You're my hero. Heroine.
So I'm your heroine, and Lee never did drugs. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
But anyway, we met again. I think it was at a Jeff Young gig.
Yeah.
At Molly Malone's,
Yeah.
and it wasn't that long ago.
No.
But I was like, please.
Yeah, it was with Postel.
Postel,
and
yes.
Steve
I
Postel.
don't know if Steve was on that gig.
Yeah,
actually. He was
He
on that
was.
gig.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
fabulous. And anyway, so I invited Lee to come, and you were so warm. You were so friendly. You didn't
I'm
know.
desperate for attention.
No, you didn't know.
I'm a bass player.
You didn't know. The bass player gets the girls. That's right. It's the
Really?
drum. I don't know. Every musician says it's the other one. The drummers say it's the guitar.
I usually get the guys that come up and go, "What kind of strings you use, man?"
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah, you get the nerds.
get me out of here, dork.
So anyway, you were just lovely and agreeable and willing, and the world was open then, and you had a
Yeah.
lot going on, and
Yeah.
you made the time, and we had so much fun, and we just became really fat. I mean, it was genuinely like just.
And we're almost neighbors. I mean, we live
That's
about
right.
15 minutes away from here.
That's
so
right,
I
very
could have
close.
walked here. I would have crawled here for this show.
But so it's fitting that it was one of the, not the last shows, but it was it a year before the lockdown, or was it right before?
It was before it.
I think it was a year before.
It might have been the year
I think
before
it was
because
a
you
year.
were still doing your
Right,
learn
you
to
were
write
coming
and
to
came
these
to that.
things a few times and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And in
Those
fact,
were great.
you were scheduled to play
I know.
right when we got closed down. You were
Yeah.
going to play with Judith Owen and then with Pedro
Yeah.
Segundo.
Yeah.
Fantastic, I love them both.
Oh God, no! It's great that they've both done this with you. It's really
No,
wonderful.
well they've done this.
Yeah,
right.
not the
Yeah.
one-on-one, but
Yeah, they did the one-on-one. They haven't done played yet.
No, but didn't they? Weren't they virtual?
They were virtual.
Yeah.
They
I
had-
mean, you know, they weren't able to actually be here with you. You guys
Exactly.
were doing it.
Exactly. And so, but what I want to talk to you about your level of COVID stuff. Also, what you've managed to accomplish. I mean, what I wanted to say about this
Yeah.
book is that this was an idea when you were here
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah.
You knew you wanted to do it, but
Yeah.
you had nothing in the world. You had nothing.
I just had pictures.
You had
I had
pictures.
no. There was nothing. There was just. I'm going to show you one last picture of that.
Okay, cool.
Really.
So what I want to know from you, Lee, is
Yes, babe.
you made it happen, and you made it happen quick. It only took me 13 years to get mine out, but I did. Finishing is what's important.
Well, this is one of my favorite
Oh,
shots.
God.
Merle Haggard, Kris and Willie
Okay,
Nelson
let's-
all together.
let's
But
show
those are my
that.
parents on the other page.
Oh, wait a minute.
That's my folks.
Oh no, and they're flipping the bird.
Absolutely.
I love it. So, wow, that's like history over there.
Yeah, we did the Grammy Awards, and the guys were on it. We played with those guys when they were doing kind of the Highwaymen, sort
Right,
of
right.
revisited. And I had done albums with all of them individually, but to be working with all three of them, I just lined them up and said, "Come on, guys, do it." And needless to say, they have no problem giving you the finger.
There.
But I do miss Merle. I had the best story about Merle.
No, let's hear it.
Okay, I'll set this down.
So, by the way, that's my copy that I'm buying from Lee.
Yes.
And for you to buy your copy, you go to
LelandSklarsBeard.com. And please, if you do that and you want it personalized, put in what you want
I'll pay
personalized.
the extra 20. God damn it.
No. I'm talking to them. Those people.
Those people.
We got this. I mean, this is $20 worth of chips. So I had done a number of projects with Merle over the years, and I was doing one of his albums in Nashville, and had one of the greatest voices in country music, and when he was young, major stud. I mean, the guy was gorgeous.
Yeah.
So first
At what point did you when did you first meet him?
for me, I think probably the first album I did with him was probably in the 80s,
Okay.
where back in the 60s, he was like unbelievable. So the first day we're in the studio, and he doesn't sound that good, but he was real healthy, drinking water. He just remarried, had a new baby, and all this stuff in his life. He'd been married a bunch of times. So I was kind of going, oh, okay, that's whatever. So I don't know what's going on. The next morning, I came in early. I wanted to check some gear out, and he had already been in for like an hour and a half early, replacing all his vocals from the previous day, and it
Really?
sounded great. And I go, Merle, yesterday kind of sucked. Today, really great. What changed? And he looks at me and he goes, my singing teeth arrived. And he had worn the wrong dentures.
How old was he then?
Probably, I don't know when he died. He might have been 80 something. So he was probably in his late 60s or 70.
And he was already wearing the dentures.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
you live a hard life, things happen. You know?
He did live
But
a hard life.
so I looked at him. I said, I don't think I'll ever hear that again in the studio. I think it's a one-off in the same way. In the same way, when I was in the studio, I did 2 albums with Andy Griffith.
Okay, that he actually had a very nice voice.
Oh, he had a nice
though.
voice. He
had a
brought
nice
his
voice.
guitar that he played on Mayberry with him.
Oh.
He was into contemporary gospel. He was a very religious man, and he really and he won a Grammy the year we did it. He won the Grammy for best gospel album.
Wow.
But we were sitting in the studio talking, and this was like after Matlock and all that.
Right.
And he still had this thick white hair, and he looks over and he goes, "Who would have thought I'd still have all this big white hair and Opie be bald?" It's just those kind of moments you live for.
That is a great
And
line.
Andy was a smart cookie. He when we finished the album, before it was ever released, he went on QVC with it and talked about the old show, and sold 1 million albums before he ever released it. Being on QVC.
He was such a huge star. I mean, who didn't watch? I mean, you
I
watched,
was
didn't you?
freaking. Still watch it every day. You know, I mean, there's.
Come on.
It's to be seen. No, every morning when I get up in the morning, I watch back-to-back Leave It to Beavers, 8 and 8:30 on MeTV. At night, I'm watching Alfred Hitchcock and Twilight Zone and Perry Mason.
Oh my God, Ken Osmond, Eddie Haskell was in the living room. He actually invited me for a drink. That was, he passed, He was quite the character.
Yeah.
You know, he was nothing like Eddie Haskell,
No,
though.
he's a good actor, though, that's for sure. Because that was, when you see those kids on that show, they were really good actors.
They were wonderful.
Yeah.
I would like to get Tony Dow.
He's great. He's a sculptor.
He is, and he's very
I
talented.
got one of his pieces.
Do you really?
Yeah, I bought it at an auction.
Wow.
For Canine Companions. I bought a couple of things there, and one of them was his, and one of my most cherished possessions.
Yeah.
Only Allee Willis never wrote out her lyrics, but September was inducted into the Library of Congress, so she hand wrote it out. Well, I talked her into doing a second handwriting of it, and nobody bid on it at this auction, so I ended up buying it. And it's a big frame, and it's got, the top is 2 panels, and it's her handwritten lyrics.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I don't know if I know her handwriting. But I mean, she was an artist, though.
Yeah, but it's just beautiful to see that. And then there's a picture of her, and then there's a certificate from the Library of Congress.
Oh,
And I got it just before she passed, and she was going, "Oh, this will be grand. Come over to the house and see it anytime." And then she was gone.
She was gone. So we had plans to go eat chicken.
Yeah,
We had
I
chicken.
loved Allie so much.
Me too.
So that was.
Did you ever work together?
Oh yeah.
What did you work together on?
I don't remember.
Oh.
I don't remember anything.
Okay,
But
so-
we were such good friends, though. Just for kitsch and stuff, we
Absolutely.
shared. Collecting was our big common.
I didn't know you collected pitch.
Oh God.
Do you have a collection like Allie's?
Oh, it's mountains. She would always come over and freak out at the house.
I did not know this because I've seen Allie's
Yeah.
full
It's
collection.
different. But I mean, I've got a lot of this same kind of stuff.
Because she would have the lunch boxes and
Yeah.
she had the chairs from her high school that she sat in, the
Yeah.
one she sat in,
Isn't
the
that
row.
insane?
So what kind of kitsch? What's your passion in kitsch?
Everything. I mean, no, really, literally, I've got everything from Majelica to German carved, 1800s hall tree bears, neon vending machines, I mean,
And
toys.
do you have a part of your house or is it
The
everywhere?
whole house, and then the basement is like a fun house.
The-
That's just all kinds of stuff down there.
We're frozen over here. I'm assuming we're not frozen over there, right, Samantha?
No.
Okay, good. Rick Smokey. Hi, Rick. Rick was the printer who offered to do your book.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But Rick is on. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Rick's the one who didn't do my book, but he did all of my stuff.
We'll talk in volume 2.
Do you have a bookmark? Do you have bookmarks?
No.
Okay. See, now I have bookmarks for my book.
Oh,
I bet you Rick would be happy to make you bookmarks for your book.
so you're going to put him on the spot here.
I know it will be his pleasure to do this.
Do I still get to cuddle with him?
I think you still get
Whatever
to
it
cuddle.
takes.
I think you still get to cuddle. They just have to be very long,
Thank
so
you.
that people can, if the shoe fits, so that they can put it at their favorite picture.
Yeah.
Or maybe they get a couple of them so they can put it in
Yeah,
places
there's
more.
so many pages. I mean, it's really a thick book. So if there's things you want to find, it's sometimes you go, oh God.
There's no table of contents, I assume. No,
and no pages are numbered. This is really just a big book of humanity.
I love that. Well, so all the more that you need a bookmark, so that if somebody really wants.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite story of somebody that you got to give you the finger tell me a couple stories of things that just happened with people out in the world.
Well, one of my favorite pictures in there is a lady named Stelita.
Okay.
And she and her sister Clara, they're biological sisters, and they were also sisters. They were both nuns. And so and they were my wife's mother's cousins. So I got Stelita was happy to give me the finger, and Clara was depressed because her arthritis was too bad and she couldn't. But Stelita goes, "I was a high school principal. I have no problem giving you the finger." And then I was doing a project. There's a picture here that's so out. We were doing a project. I can't remember. It might have been Bernie Williams from the Yankees. But it was one of the sports projects. We were doing a friend of mine, Tally Sherwood's studio in kind of Burbank area. And we took a break and we were sitting outside eating lunch on Victory Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And I see this guy come walking down the street. And he looked like an extra from The Sopranos. A lot of gold chains and these big shades and all this crap and smoking. But with this huge fake stuffed tiger over his shoulders. And I looked at the guys and I just said, I gotta get this guy. Then I ran up to him and there's a picture of this guy flipping me off.
Yeah, do you know why he had a stuffed
No
fake
idea.
tiger?
I didn't even want to know. You know, there's certain things. But I remember I would find I found 3 winos.
Yeah.
And I went to get them.
Did you put them together?
They were already together.
They were already together.
But when I got their picture, they thought it was a cop.
Oh.
And like
You?
undercover, they thought like Serpico. I said, no, I'm not a cop. I'm fine. Just come on, flip me off. And so these guys, they're all drinking and there's all, the thing is that this really is all about humanity. Mm-hmm. So it's like when I did the Tonight Show, that's when I got Paula Deen, Matthew McConaughey.
Who did you do the Tonight Show with?
I did it so many times. It might have been with Lyle.
I did it so many times.
No, we did over the years. We did it many times.
So
I think it might have been like Lyle Lovett or somebody
cool.
like that. But I got Jay Leno is in there, and Matthew McConaughey was on that show, and Paula Deen, and I got Paula's husband also. I forget his name, but when I look through it, really, actually, one of the hardest things about this book for me is how many people have passed that are in the book. I mean, a lot.
Really?
Of people over the years. I mean, I could have done a whole memoriam section in this book.
Wow.
And it had no intention. For me, it's a personal thing when I go through the book and I'm seeing all these people and I'm just going, I'm so glad I got them.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like they're in there for posterity.
So now you continue to take these pictures, I assume, as you go through life. Yeah. So there probably will be a volume 2 at some point, I'm guessing.
There may be. So much work.
So much work.
Yeah. I mean, publishers had talked to me about it, but the thing is, if a publisher like Taschen or somebody did it,
you get no money.
You get no money. It would have been like you do your work, turn it over, you get a check for something.
You get $2 a book.
Yeah.
$3 a book.
Yeah. So I decided at this point, I was concerned about breaking even, so I broke even on it. And if I sell, I think eight autograph books a month, it pays for the storage facility. So I can do this for the long term. And I'm talking to some people about, as soon as things open up, like the guy who takes care of the immediate family when we go to Japan wants me to ship him books to put in Tower Records and stuff over in Japan.
There is Tower Records still?
There's lots of Tower Records in Japan.
Wow.
And also the biggest Tower Records I've ever been in is in Bogota, Colombia.
No shit.
It's a fantastic store.
Wow.
So we kind
they
of
got a lot of money over there.
Well, they do,
Yeah.
and everything here just always goes down the crapper. It seems, it's going great, and then all of a sudden things go south, and it's gone.
Right.
And I go to other places, and you think it's over, and you go, oh no, it's not over. It's just over for us.
Wow, that's interesting.
So, but Kaz in Japan said, look, I don't want to get the books now because because the stores are still basically closed.
Is Japan?
They're still kind of
feeling it?
locked down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they got hit
Oh.
real hard. with it.
Okay.
And then I'm talking to some other people about getting distribution in Europe, because the problem is, like if you buy a $60 book and you want to send it to Germany, it's $75 to mail it.
Unbelievable.
So I'm trying to find distribution over there where I can just ship over like a couple of pallets, maybe send 1,000 books over, have
Right.
them in a fulfillment center.
Right.
And so I'm working on these things. It's just, this is an area I never dreamed I'd be dealing with.
Well, you were too busy playing.
Yeah, I had a life.
But the thing about it is, Lee, what you turn lemon into lemonade, that
Yeah.
old expression,
Yeah, I know
because
it.
we were in a pandemic and
Yeah.
you couldn't play.
Yeah.
So you found something productive to do that makes people happy. That is.
That's what I really wanted out of it, was just to put a smile on people's faces, because it's such a dark time. And so between that, doing a YouTube channel, which was a total accident.
Okay, let's talk about, because I know Tristan's been looking at it. Let's talk about your YouTube channel and how that was born and is it going to continue to
Oh,
be?
absolutely.
Okay, so tell us about the YouTube channel.
When we finished Phil Collins' last tour, it was called the Not Dead Yet tour.
What year was
And
that?
it was about 3 years ago we finished that. And,
That's a very cute title.
oh yeah, it's perfect. That's his autobiography. It's a whole other thing with him.
People think he's dead?
Well, people just, if you're not there in everybody's face all the time, they just don't think about you, and all of a sudden. So he came back, and the thing was, he at this point is slightly infirmed. He's had some back surgeries and stuff. So he did the whole show sitting on a stool. Can't play drums anymore, so his son's
That's
playing
his son,
drums.
yeah, okay.
But Phil does the whole show sitting on a stool.
Wow.
Well, we were still selling out 80,000 seat stadiums and stuff like that. So I mean, it's like, I think their concern was, would people accept him as being a frail, older version of himself? And man, they went berserk, kind of thing.
Is his voice still?
It's not what it once was, but very few of the singers of that
That's
at
true.
that age had that. I mean, we lowered a couple of keys in the set, and also it's one of those things. Phil commented. We were talking about this once, where he said, I forget when I'm recording a song. That's the only song I have to do that day, so I can have it in that key and be it. We go on the road, a 3-hour show.
Right.
You're
Does
doing.
he do a 3-hour show?
We would do 2.5 to 3 hour shows.
Wow.
And so you get up and do that, and all of a sudden that song, it's a strain. So you go, well, let's just drop it a whole step or a half step or something. Do a few of those just to ease the burden of it.
Right.
So at the end of the tour, I had couple of people were writing to me, bass players, going, we saw the show, it was amazing. Our front of house guy was amazing, and they said it sounded like a CD out front. They said there were just some detail things we couldn't hear in the bass part, because bass can tend to get lost in these cavernous facilities. So I decided, I called Michel Colin, who was our front of house mixer, and I had him send me a show, which was from Adelaide, Australia. And I put it in my laptop.
Phil Collins show.
Yeah, from the tour we just were doing. So I put it in my laptop, and actually I have my little Bose speaker. I brought it along here. I plugged it into that, and I have a little bass amp that sits next to me. So what I decided to do was take the first song of the show and play it, but I mixed it so that the bass was louder than the track, so that you could hear every note and things. So I talked about it and went through the whole show. Every day I did another song from it and got through the whole show. And then I was kind of sitting there, and by the third song, people started writing me going, "We love your YouTube channel." And I'm going, "What are you talking about?" And they go, "No, that new YouTube channel." I go, "I have no idea what." I didn't think I was creating a channel. I was just showing some examples of songs.
So you were just putting
I was
videos
just putting them up on YouTube, and all of a sudden it became a channel.
Oh, yeah, and what a channel it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point,
How many subscribers
I think
do you have?
there's 156,000 right now. It's about 1,000 a week joining it. I mean, it's crazy.
Do you TikTok? That's what I want to know.
No,
you don't
no,
TikTok.
and that's why I also did Twitter.
Yeah.
Because I just hate the word so much.
Yeah.
It just sounds just.
Yeah.
I can't. And plus, I'm way too long-winded to be, just to be concise.
Lee's gotten kicked off Facebook.
Everything.
How many times do you get kicked off?
Usually 150 days a year.
He gets kicked off for his politics. They just kick him off. They just
But
move
I
him off.
have no politics on my YouTube channel. That's all about music.
Right.
So we finished Phil, and I kind of went, Jesus, what am I going to do now? So I started digging into my archives and pulled up, like, I did Jackson Brown's Doctor My Eyes. Went through all these, Linda Ronstadt and Carole King, and all of a sudden I've put a minimum of one video every single day since March 23rd of the last year.
Fantastic.
And I get up every day thinking about it, and like, who should I visit today?
And so how much time does that take of your day to do that each day?
Probably between an hour and a half.
So that's a pretty big commitment.
It's a chunk. I do try to get it done in the morning so that the people, like in the UK and Europe, can have it for the evening. They don't have to wait till the next morning. But it's really a challenge, and I would say probably 2/3 of my videos I play along on, and then there's a lot that the magic that happened in the studio when we made that record can't be reproduced. And I just go, look, I'd rather be an audience and just hang with you guys. And I tell them who was on the thing, what studio we worked
Can you
at.
give us an example of a song where magic happened in the studio that you wouldn't try to replicate?
Almost all of them, ultimately. But it's...
So you're an in-the-moment guy.
Well, I absolutely am. I mean, I've never played anything twice the same way, so it's that magic that happens. But a lot of things like Doctor My Eyes, I play along with that, and a lot of James Taylor stuff. But when I put up Gene
like
Clark's
the hits that people are expecting.
Well, there's a lot of that, but I also have been trying to dig into the deep tracks on things, because everybody knows that stuff. But like one of the great albums I got to work on was No Other by Gene Clark, who was the singer of the Byrds, and it was like, it's one of these cult underground things. But on the title track on that, I think I have 6 basses on it, where they had me overdubbing fuzz bass and octave stuff. So almost the entire thing. So there's no way I could sit there and show this off. So I said, just dig it. But it's funny, when I look back, my very first videos were probably on an average about 4 minutes long. And now I think I'm averaging 30 minutes a video.
Of course you are.
So there's so many stories and stuff to tell about
That's so wonderful.
So I'm having fun with that. It's just Leland Sklar channel, whatever on YouTube.
It's just great because you're archiving your history,
and
which is like the fabric, as they say, of our lives, pretty much.
Well, the thing also was, I mean, I did this book, but I've been bugged for years of people saying, you got to do an autobiography. And I have no intention of ever doing that. That doesn't interest me in the least to do that. But doing this, I'm kind of doing one, but I'm doing one about the stuff that really is meaningful.
You're doing it your way.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm gonna look into is, every year we do this gig at the Library of Congress. Now, we couldn't do it last year and we couldn't do it this year because of the pandemic.
Right.
But it's called We Write the Songs. And it's put on by ASCAP. And Paul Williams is the president of ASCAP.
Paul's in the living room.
Paul's in the book. Same size in the book as he is in the living room. I mean, I just did Paul 2 days ago. Didn't do Paul. I had him on the channel.
You have on the channel?
No, but I've done a lot of recordings with Paul over the years. But this gig.
By the way, when he sang Rainy Days and Mondays in this living room and told us the story behind it, which was written for his mother. And told the story and sang it. Paul doesn't have the best voice in the world. I have never heard it. No version of that song is better.
There's a magic that happens when the writer does it. In the same way, when we did this We Write the Songs, one of the guys the premise of it is, they bring in about 6 to 8 composers, and they talk about the songs. Randy Newman, Jimmy Webb, Hart, Lyle Lovett, one of the greatest guys, I can't remember his name now, but he wrote the Banana Boat song for Harry Belafonte. It was like in his 90s.
I want to go. Wow,
he's passed away now. But the thing was, what they would do is, we have a house band for it. So, do you know Kris Caswell?
I know that name.
Yeah, he's a keyboard player. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's the MD on it, and then I'll go back like Dean Parks, and I go back.
It's his baby that gave the finger, correct?
Yeah.
I seem to recall you telling that story.
It was Chris's ultrasound in there.
Ultrasound,
But like Omar Hakim back in New York, he'll come in and play drums. We've got just a great band to do this. So each one of those people does like maybe 2 or 3 songs in it. They tell stories, and it's all like senators and stuff, and it's all really basically doing things to protect songwriters. So so ASCAP puts it on, and but I'm trying to remember where the hell I started.
What was that? Where were we going with this story?
Oh God!
I don't know.
Senior moment.
I know. You were talking about Paul Williams.
Well,
and the songwriter doing their own songs. That's
oh yeah,
what you were,
okay. So
between the two of us, we can get the train.
on one of the last ones we did though, Don Schlitz did it. Don wrote The Gambler.
Oh wow.
Kenny Rogers did. I always thought when Kenny did it was a novelty tune. You know, got to know info.
Right.
This guy sang it, and we were all going, "Holy crap! This is a great song."
Wow.
We heard it in a whole totally different way. And when Paul does his songs, I mean, he's not the best singer. In the same way, Carol Bayer Sager's not a great singer.
Right.
Carole King really isn't a great singer.
Right. Well,
but when they do their own
with
songs,
Carol, I kind of will. Tapestry is. For me, it's a I mean, I know what you mean,
no,
but it's a perfect
But you're
album.
not.
But I'm not going to say that about Burt Bacharach.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, yeah, it's different.
And Hal, the best was Hal David was a dear friend, and he was before Paul. He was the president of ASCAP, and he was probably 89 the last time we did this gig with him, and they said, you know, you got to sing, you know, Raindrops or one of those songs, and he was so nervous, he didn't want to get up there, and we just come on, Hal, come on, you got to do this. And Hal's in the book. Hal and Bert are both in, and Eunice, Hal's wife, is in the book too. But it was just great because when we finally finished the song and everybody's going crazy, Hal comes back and he goes, "Let's go on the road." He was like, he was all boned up. He was ready to rock. It was like he was the sweetest guy. But it's always like what was his name? Mandel. He just passed away. He was one of the.
Well, I know it's not
songwriters.
Howie, who is actually my gynecologist. My gynecologist's name is Howie Mandel. It's a little
how
disconcerting.
weird.
It's a little
How
disconcerting. Mandel. I don't know who you mean.
Johnny Mandel.
Okay.
He's a great composer.
Okay.
And he did it. And I mean, this is an amazing gig. And every time I do it, we all just sort of sit there going, "Wow, this is."
So tell me some more of those wows, Lee, because that's something we haven't talked about before. I mean, I remember asking you, because you have done 2,000 plus albums with 2,000, some of those are not people that you would choose necessarily to do the second album with, right? And once you
occasionally.
Not often.
Rarely. I mean, every time you walk in the studio, you can make it a really good experience. The artist may not be, you know, your favorite artist you've ever worked with, but the band may have been great, and we just had a great time. You know, I mean, there's things that go on in there that transcend, you know, the artist kind of situation. One of the best moments, this was great. Taylor Hicks won American Idol. His gray hair. He was,
Lauren Gold was his musical director.
Really?
Yeah,
With
Taylor Hicks. Yeah.
Well, we were working up at Matt Serletic's studio after he won. After Taylor.
We saw
won.
him. I took Samantha to see Taylor Hicks.
Yeah.
On the American Idol tour, which was a little girl.
Okay, yeah, because he went on to do. He was like doing a road company of Greece or something like that afterwards. But the thing that was great was, so we're in the studio doing his album after he won, and Julie Chen from I think Channel 2 in the morning show on CBS.
She's the girlfriend, isn't she?
Yeah.
Of Lee or whatever. Les.
Giant bucks. Giant.
Les Moonves.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So she comes to brings a film crew, and they're going to film Taylor in there. Well, my wife was out of town, and at that point I was down to one Basset Hound, and God, which one did I have? Buckaroo was my Basset Hound. He was old at this point, and I told the guys, I said, I can do the session, but this is out in Woodland Hills on Basset. I said, I got to bring my dog with me, but I said it'll be cool. He'll lay on his pad. So I come in there and I set the pad down next to my bass rig and everything, and Buckaroo just comes walking, looks at everybody, lays down, passes up. Well, Taylor Hicks is all pumped up and he's ready to be interviewed, and Julie Chen gloms on to Buckaroo, and she's just like the guys are like, okay, we're gonna go to Taylor, but we'll do a cutaway from Hopalong, or I think it was Hopalong, and so they got the camera down there, and she's on the floor with him, and I see Taylor over there just starting to steam at this point because he's supposed to be all the attention, and she's freaking out over the dog.
Oh God!
And it was just great. I'm just sitting there going, man, kids and pups, you know, you're screwed. You know, this is good. So it was so sweet. And another one of those kind of dog moments, I remember we were doing a movie at Western Recorders back in the early 70s. And one of the great keyboard players in this town was Mike Melvoin. And his daughter was one of the girls who worked with Prince. Gary Coleman and Mike Melvoin's daughters were Lisa and, I forget their names now, Wendy and Lisa. And so his daughter was, but Mike was like a monstrous great keyboard player. Well, he had just gotten a Basset Hound puppy named Ludwig. And he brought him to the session there. And we're in there with a full orchestra in their big room and everything and all this stuff. And Ludwig's sound asleep under the piano and everything's really cool. All of a sudden the French horns start playing. And every primal instinct in Ludwig grew, and this little puppy just gets up. And Mike's trying to play, and he's like, quiet. And I look in, and the engineer's going, soloing, trying to figure out. And we finally had to stop the tape, just because his primal instincts. He was on the hunt. And Jerry Barnes was the manager there at Western, so we took Ludwig up and he kept him in the office while we were recording.
Hysterical.
I mean, the things that go on in the studio can be so. The music's easy.
Music's easy.
Yeah, music's easy.
So I remember the last time I asked you what surprises you, because sometimes you go in and you don't really know who the artist is.
Rarely.
Rarely know.
Yeah.
Okay. So you told me one story. You told me you can quickly tell us about Bernie Williams because you've told us that story in the year before. But for those who didn't get to hear it.
Well, I mean, that was great. Bernie Williams was the center field for the New York Yankees, had 4 World Series rings, and monstrous great guitar player, composer.
Like serious?
Serious. And when he was growing up,
and trained.
Yeah, when he grew up in Puerto Rico, he was a music student. But he had a gift for baseball, and somebody saw him playing baseball, and they signed him, and he spent his entire career with the Yankees. Now, one of those guys had 10 teams in his
Right.
And but when we walked in the studio, it was Tim Pierce and Kenny Aronoff and myself. We went back to New York.
Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny's great. And so we were back there, and Bernie came in as soon as he took his guitar. Because I've done a lot of vanity projects with people, actors and stuff that all want to, and you go, fine, whatever. If you're happy, like it's all
And
good.
you're cool with that.
Oh, absolutely. They're living a dream. And if you can partake in somebody's dream, it's a win.
I mean, have you ever just gone?
Oh yeah, you cringe sometimes on it.
Because they can't sing sometimes.
Yeah, they can't, but they're having the time of their life, and you don't want to,
Rain on
and
them.
odds are that's the only time they're ever going to be in the studio.
Has anybody who was cringeworthy asked you to come back to do the second album?
Most of those kind of people that are cringeworthy are doing it in a situation where they're probably never going to have a second album. They're living out a dream.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite moments like that of surprise in the studio was we had a rhythm section. That was Mike Baird and David Foster and myself and I think Jay Graydon. We did all the Filmation cartoon shows, Groovy Ghoulies, Jabberjaws, Archies, and all those things. We did them at Larrabee Studios down in Santa Monica Boulevard in Boys Town. Down there, we're kind of right in that area near San Vicente. And we were all in the studio one day. We got called. Steve Dorff did that stuff, and we're sitting there, assuming we're doing another cartoon show. Door opens. Ted Knight walks in.
Okay,
and
so
at the height of Mary Tyler Moore.
Ted Knight was they're too young to know.
And he was doing an album as Ted Baxter. It was called Hi Guys. I've got it at home, and we did Pinball Wizard and Blueberry Hill, but he was singing like Ted Baxter. I mean,
did it sell copies?
Oh, I probably did, or it's one of those funny cult albums.
Right.
But he was the sweetest guy. We had the best time with him, and I always look back on those kind of projects. Like I remember in the same room doing a Jim Neighbors album. And Jim was so delightful.
But now Jim Neighbors had a legit voice.
Oh, he was great.
He had the legit voice.
Yeah,
because that was really kind of his passion, right? Was to sing.
But his passion was singing, and then he bought a lot of land in Hawaii, and I think he was raising either pineapples or avocados. He had a massive plantation.
He was kind of not opera, but he was
like light opera.
Yeah,
he had a real legit,
really and very
baritone.
Yeah.
But that was the thing that was so great about him was, he had this Gomer Pyle character.
Right.
And I mean, I think it was on either Carol Burnett show or Gary Moore show, or one of those early shows where where he first appeared.
Yeah.
And he came on this hayseed character, and then all of a sudden they have him sing, and you go, what the heck? I mean, people would just kind of go, what the hell just
I remember the first time I heard him sing on TV. It was like, who?
It's almost like a dubbed voice.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Do you have any questions? Anybody's
all right, let's go and see if there's any questions in the house. All right, let's see. Everybody's just sending it. Let's see, they're saying 20. You know, don't get me started.
There's got to be some recourse at Facebook to take it, because it's obvious to me that, judging by the people I talk to, you have at least 14 or 15 million people watching right now. So this is ridiculous.
At least 14. Does the book have people flipping the bird? What? Does the whole book? Yes.
Yeah.
The whole
Every
book does.
picture is somebody flipping a bird. And it's all good spirit. There's nothing mean in the book. It's all fun, and everybody was thrilled to do it.
Jim says, I was just watching your video for today and sought out this one. Great page. I don't know what that means.
I would need more detail.
Just was watching your video for today and sought out this one. Great page. I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure unless it was that that I mentioned I was going to be here.
Maybe, and so maybe he's checking
well,
out
welcome
videos.
aboard. This is great. I'm thrilled to be here.
And so Rick is here. Always good to see Lee. Yes, and Rick, you're going to make Lee some bookmarks because I already committed you. He gives me permission to commit him now.
Absolutely.
Merle Travis.
Ooh.
Merle Haggard. Okay, they're correcting here. Let's see. Oh, Allee Willis, yes.
Yeah.
I would have gladly given you the finger. Yeah, I believe that's.
It's so much fun. Like when I'm at the NAMM show or anything, people come running up to me like, I'm supposed to do that, aren't I? Yeah, I mean, I can leave there with like 500 pictures a day.
And everybody wants you to take a picture with them.
Yeah.
With you,
Yeah.
I'm sure, flipping them the bird, right?
Yeah.
People are surprised. Oh, right. Surprise. That was Jim
Gomer.
Neighbors.
Yes, Jim Neighbor Gomer.
Okay.
And the thing that was funny was I talked to Andy Griffith about that. And I said, oh man, I said, I did an album with Jim Neighbors. I said, it's just too bad we couldn't have, if Don Knotts was a great singer, he could have done like the Three Bubbas, because that was at the time of the Three Tenors. And he said, actually, Don had a very good voice.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's wild to know.
Yeah.
Jim Neighbors was one amazing and talented performer with a great comedy skills. Yes. Did Lee miss anybody he wished he would have gotten in the book?
I don't think so, because if I would have seen them, I would have probably hit on them.
Yeah.
The only thing that's not in the book is politicians. I did not want to taint my book with politicians. And I had some really good opportunities.
Even like the ones you like?
Even the ones I like.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to go there.
You didn't want to go there?
I didn't want to go there. It's the only thing that I...
Have you met?
Oh yeah, like we did when we played Washington.
Don't tell me that you've backed up politicians singing.
I think my car is super No, I think there was. There might have been some in there.
Really?
I bet the fun stuff for me is like when I look back at working with people like Tom Wopat and John Schneider and all these actors, so many actors, they had, or like when we did, the Dodgers won the World Series in '81, and we went in the studio and cut Queen's We Are the Champions with the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, and those guys were all hammered and they just won the World Series,
Oh my God.
and they were wanting to play like Wooly Bully and Fannie Mae, and it was funny. It was me and Jeff Porcaro and Chris Bond was producing it, and they brought in Helen Dell, who was the Dodger organist, to be on the day too, and she was the musician who copped an attitude.
Really?
And we're all going, these players in this room, and the one who cops the attitude is Helen Dell. I mean, she was a good organist for Dodger Stadium, but we're kind of going, what's your problem? It's like,
what kind of attitude did she have?
It was just weird.
Jim asked if you stay in touch with James Hill and Carole King. Of course you do.
Pretty much. I mean, Carol more than James. James is more like, I just wrote to Carol today and talked to her because she was just, she's being put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was just, she's in it as a songwriter with Jerry Goffin, but this is going to be her as an artist.
Fantastic.
Which is like you kind of go, it's like when you find about somebody getting their first star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame and you go, you haven't got one. They haven't got one now, but Mary Hart has one, kind of thing.
Does she?
Oh yeah, well, because her husband.
Well, and anybody that can pay, you can kind of
You
pay
have to
your way
buy it.
onto the.
It's a lot of politicking to do that. But there are times where you hear these people, or they go, man, they got their first Grammy, and you go, first
Okay,
Grammy?
so now wait a minute. This is wrong though, because people like you can't really do it because although maybe, and we're going to start talking about the immediate family, maybe this might be a way.
I don't care.
It does. I know.
I really don't give a crap about it.
You don't. You have everything else.
Well, the thing is, to me, music is not a contest. Just like art, any of the arts. That's what's hard to like watch the Academy Awards and stuff, and they're going through the movies. You kind of go, they should just say, here's what we consider the best movies. No award or anything. Just present these things and deal with it. Because to me, there's enough contests. You're going to go like baseball or highlight or tossing the caber or whatever the hell you're going to do for school.
Tossing the caber, yeah.
James Taylor threw that at Johnny Carson one night.
Really?
We were down and we were doing the Tonight Show, and Johnny goes, so are you into sports or anything you'd like to watch? And James is out of the top of his head goes, I'm really love tossing the caber. And Johnny's just kind of looking at him going, what the hell is this guy talking about? And that's where they take that giant pole, and the guy runs with this like a telephone pole and throws it in the air. It's like part of the Highland Games, and these guys are like throwing boulders as big as this.
Oh my!
So tossing the cabers.
How far does it go?
Not too far, but the fact you can even pick the damn thing up is a miracle. But James would always do all these real obtuse things, like he'd say things which would leave the people kind of, what?
That's fitting.
Yeah.
How much has James changed? I mean, because you know James pre-fame. You started working with James before Sweet Baby James, right?
Yeah.
And you went, and all of those years that he was a junkie and getting sober and doing, and then, I mean, he is beyond iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, there are probably 5 people in the world at James's level of admiration, all of that, right? How has, and you've played with him through so much of it, so has he changed as a person?
Well, when he started to change his gender, it was really kind of weird. We were kind of going, no, don't do that to him. You're not going to be that cute. He's gone through a lot of things over the course of his lifetime. The thing I always found remarkable with James is no matter kind of where his head was at, he never screwed up musically. We would do shows where he was so gone, never miss a note, never forget a word. Yeah, there was a door in his mind.
So his voice was always
never affected that, and he could be a total mess after the show. But that was years ago, and then he really devoted himself to cleaning up his act and exercising and going to meetings and doing all that. So he's doing great. And then the thing that's crazy is we just did an album with his sister Kate. The first album we did with Kate was 50 years ago, and we put the same team back together. So it's Peter Asher producing, and myself and Russ Kunkel and Danny Korchmar, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and it just, there's so many things that go on, like they happen once and then they sort of float around, and then something comes up and boom, they come back together.
And
again.
so how was this latest collaboration?
It was great. It was great, and it's kind of like when we did the James Taylor, Carole King Troubadour reunion tour.
Oh.
Because that was one of those things where, the old adage is you can't go home.
Right.
But we did get to go home, and it was really good. It's like going to the house you grew up in, and you kind of go, God, it was bigger than that. I thought it was bigger than that. Everything's different.
Right.
When we got together with James and Carole the first time we played, I mean, it had been 40-some years.
Okay, because the first time,
1970.
it was the section, and Carole was on keyboard, right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't even the section.
It wasn't even the section.
What it was Danny Korchmar, Russ Kunkel, Carole King, and myself. And we were encouraging Carole to step out a bit on that first tour.
What year was that?
Probably 70. And the next thing you know,
Tapestry.
She goes and cuts Tapestry, and we're kind of not going to work out having a side person in the band. It's the biggest record in the world. And at that point, I did an album with Tom Jans and Mimi Farina, and Mimi was Joan Baez's younger sister. And when we did that, there was a keyboard player on that named Craig Durkee. And so I contacted Peter and I said, I think I found Carol's replacement, because Carol was going to be moving on. And Craig came in, and it was a great fit. So we started, it was Russ and Cooch and Craig and myself. Then when we were on the road with James, they would do it. James really didn't like doing sound checks. I mean, he would do it, get a line check for you, and then he just would go off and do whatever he wanted.
Right.
And we were all just so horny to play that we would just sit there and jam. And finally, I think Peter or somebody played us a tape one day, and they said, "Check this out." And we listened. That's good. That was your sound check.
Wow.
And next thing we know, Peter went and got us a record deal with Warner Brothers. And James actually named the band. We were all going, what the hell are we going to call ourselves? And he goes, well, you're a rhythm section. Why don't you just call it the section? But I remember I've talked about this.
I didn't know that was James.
Yeah, and I've talked to people about this before. I remember there was a guy named Rick Roberts, I think was his album. And Don Henley was playing drums on it. It was when we was doing sessions. And I remember Don saying to me, he goes, do you think the Eagles is a stupid name for a band? And I looked at him, I said, I thought Beatles was a stupid name. To me, the first time I heard Beatles, I conjured up insects.
Right.
So I had no idea what this was. I said, just make great music. That's all you got to do. Names. I mean, you think all these band names, Strawberry Alarm Clock, and all these ridiculous names over the years. But
Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Who would think that would be a good name?
That's one of my favorite things is when you see the pink T-shirts with Floyd the Barber from Mayberry on it, and it says Pink Floyd. It's like,
that's good.
but you just, that all this stuff is just all goes on all the time, and you just sort of live in the middle of it, and the fun part is just kind of watching it all. I've always been like the fly on the wall.
So what about playing with Linda Ronstadt? What was Linda like?
She's the best. She's just the greatest.
Have you been with her recently since?
I talked to her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's not doing anything, but it's one of
How is she doing?
When I talk to her on the phone, she's doing as good as can be expected with the circumstances. She sounds real positive and stuff. And I'm hoping that if we get up to the Bay Area, because she's up in San Francisco, if the immediate family, if we get up there, because we're hopefully doing this West Coast tour at the end of October. And if we get up there, we'll see if we can get her to a show and see her. It'll be one of these kind of things where we'll have to, she said like when she goes someplace, she has to bring a special chair, just so that she's comfortable and all that. But boy, I'll tell you, when you'd be around her and she'd open her mouth, you just kind of go, oh man.
Nobody has a voice like that.
No. But she's also just the funniest character. We were doing an album up at a studio called The Site, which was across, we worked at both places, but it was right kind of across the highway from Skywalker Ranch, Lucas's place. But it was up in the mountains, and we were up there, and she was kind of a voracious knitter. And then,
okay, now that I didn't see coming.
Yeah. And so one day, she's usually just kind of sitting there knitting, and then one day I look and she's like knitting really close like this, and I'm going, what's going on? She said, oh, my eyes, I don't know what's going on. My eyes are killing me. She keeps, and then she looks up, and one of the lenses had fallen out of her glasses, and she didn't know it. So she couldn't see. And I'm just going, Linda, sometimes you think these people are savants. There's a bass player in Nashville named Edgar Myers. Now, if you talk to any legit bass player in the world, you drop Edgar Myers' name, they kind of, ooh, this guy's deep.
Yeah.
Deep. One of my favorite bassists in the world. But a friend of mine, Eddie Bayers, who's one of the major drummers in Nashville, was doing a session with Edgar. And he said every time there was a break, Edgar was sitting there with the phone book, going through it, making phone calls. And he finally went over and said, what's going on? And he goes, I took my clothes in to be dry cleaned and I can't remember where they are. And I'm going, thank God he's a savant.
My God, that's hysterical.
He can play like an angel, but he has no idea where his dry cleaning is.
It's hysterical. So when you were, I know that you started out as you were into science and art, and bass was not the first thing. Pianist. So
not a pianist, a pianist.
A pianist. Sorry. So who were you? What drew you to the bass? I mean, I know the teacher, but what drew you to it? Who were the players that got you passionate about bass?
When I started, because
that's tokatia on there. Are they spicy?
No, it's really good.
Okay, good.
I'm just gonna grab a little.
Yeah, grab a little water.
Spritz.
All right, I'll look for see if there's questions while you're doing that. I can't see anything. I don't know what's going on here.
So I had been studying piano all my childhood.
When did you start playing?
I was just turned 5.
So I assume it wasn't your request, but your mother said you're going to play piano?
No, not at all. My
Oh.
parents loved watching the Liberace TV show.
Yeah.
And I used to watch it with them, and I became enamored with piano. And we had a piano in the house. So
Did you have a candelabra?
I had a menorah.
Okay.
It was as close as I got. So I studied piano for many, many years. And when I went into junior high school, 12 years old,
But what was the dream when you were playing piano? Did you?
I had no dreams.
You had no dreams.
I was too young. I mean, I was just studying.
Okay, but like you're 10, you're 12, you're 13, you're 14. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking there's got to be more to life than this. No, but when I was 12 and went into junior high school, they didn't need a pianist. There was a lot of kids that played piano, but they needed an upright player, a string bass player.
Oh.
And Mr. Theodore Lynn, who's the back of the book, he's asked if I'd be interested in trying out string bass. And they had one in the back room, and he brought it out, and I held it, and I played a note and felt that vibration, and I just went, I could do this.
Were you tall? You must have been a tall kid.
Yeah, but you don't have to be tall.
You don't have to be tall.
I mean, because bass has a peg on it. I mean, you can have things, and there's different sizes. So, I mean, there's children's basses and stuff. So, but I fell in love with it, and I think at that point I was burned out with piano. I'd been under a lot of stress with it, doing recitals and things, and so.
Were you gifted?
Because
I think you
no,
probably.
I think I was probably average size. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. We're right back at Blazing Saddles now.
We need the
There's some
rim
schnitz
shot.
improvement here. Well, I guess probably was. I mean, I won a major award from the Hollywood Bowl Association when I was like 8 years old, and played for Eugene Ormandy when I was like 8, who was the conductor of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and I was a classical snob. I was only studying classical. And when I started playing bass, I was really more classical than jazz. I was listening to Ray Brown and Red Callender.
Okay, so let's talk about jazz for a minute, because Tristan's here. And
Yeah.
that's his
His Mayura.
It is. So what's your jazz deal, Lee?
Well, it's not really a jazz deal.
Okay.
I think everything for me, because I was playing.
You played every genre with everybody.
Well, I mean. Yeah, almost every genre. I've done jazz albums and stuff. I'm not on the radar. I enjoy playing it, but I'm not one of the guys on the radar, so I don't always get called for those dates, which is fine. As long as I'm getting called for something, I'm happy. But everything for me, like so many other players, changed when the Beatles hit. I mean, I was like playing the Lighthouse in Hermosa Beach, and it was one of the great jazz clubs in town. The thing that was fortunate for me was being of kind of Eastern Polish-Russian stock. I started shaving really young, so as soon as summer would hit, I'd grow like some kind of a beard, and I could play adult clubs. And
when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I'd be like, 13, 14, 15 years old.
And you were already doing club days?
Yeah.
Wow.
At that point. I mean, I went through all kinds of things. I went through a Chitlin circuit period, where I hooked up with a guy named Harmonica George Smith.
You gotta watch that saying "hooked up." You know what the kids.
I know it's a whole other thing, but I'm not gonna edit myself to accommodate a bunch of little punts. But I hooked up with this guy George Smith, Harmonica George Smith, who was one of the great Chicago blues harp players, and it was through him that I got to work with Jimmy Reed and Lightnin' Hopkins and Big Mama Thornton and Magic Sam and Albert Collins, doing that whole circuit, playing after hours clubs. I was playing Watts the night that Watts riots broke out.
Wow.
At the Kit Kat Club and stuff. So, I mean, there's been all these periods in my life of going through all kinds of different things, and I've enjoyed them all. I feel really ever so fortunate to have had the career I've had. And when people ask me about things, I go, I'm just happy to be a working musician and part of this community. I don't think of anything beyond that. I'm grateful that there were other things that I could have ended up doing, and I'm really glad this ended up being it.
Okay, so it started out, I know there was like science interest, so what was that about?
I just always loved science.
And what would you what were you thinking, what attracted you, what part of it
I
interested
think just the whole idea of science. I mean, I just, in all sciences, I mean, that was the thing. if I had been born rich and didn't have to think about working, I could have been a career student my whole life. I would have stayed in college to this day.
And you know what school he went to, Samantha?
No.
To Harry's school. He went to Northridge. Yeah.
It was San Fernando Valley
Valley
State
State,
College.
which is
in
where I
those
wanted
days.
to go in those days.
Yeah.
Because it had a great drama department.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It was a great
And
school.
what was your art, right?
I started in the music department for 2
okay.
years
Mm-hmm.
and decided I hated it.
Oh.
Because what it really seemed like they were doing was gearing you towards teaching. And I didn't want to be a teacher, I wanted to perform.
I see.
And so I ended up going up
What instrument were you in there?
bass.
Bass. Okay.
Yeah, I was playing bass.
You already moved from the.
Oh yeah, I did that at junior high school.
Uh-huh.
So I really kind of was at a loss. I mean, mainly at that point I was just humping really hard in college just to keep a student deferment because it was the height of Vietnam and everything.
Did you pull a number?
I got close on that, and it was weird. I had a skin condition, which is a general thing, atopic dermatitis, where if I had stuff that was, if I had to wear clothes that were either woolen or washed in detergent, I would end up looking like beef jerky from it. So I ended up going to a dermatologist to get a note written about, well, she was a pro-war hawk and wrote me the most minimal letter she possibly could. And I submitted it and I ended up with a 4F. Because they said, no, this condition, you can't
fit those clothes.
I would have been a disaster.
Oh my God.
But I mean, my philosophy teacher at school was my draft counselor. You know, so I was ready to go to Canada, whatever, because I did not believe in that war.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest heartbreaks I've ever experienced was playing in Washington, D.C. on a gig with James in the dead of winter. And at about 3 in the morning, I couldn't go to sleep. Went out, it was nothing but snow, and I walked, it was about a half a mile to the mall. And I walked down there and went to the Vietnam Memorial. I was the only person there. At like 3 in the morning, and everything was covered in snow.
Wow.
And I put my hands and opened the books that are inside these things where you can look where people are, and found a whole bunch of friends from high school that had been killed over there, and found them on the wall and stuff. So, and I was just kind of sitting there reflecting, going, how much life they could have had that they lost over there for something that ultimately turned out to be totally bullshit. I mean, all the arguments against the war and everybody calling you draft dodgers, love it or leave it. And it turns out all that stuff was lies, and it was a dark time in our history, and you think so bad for all the returning, veterans from that war that were just treated with such contempt, and they just were sold a bad bill of goods, and they ended up there.
So you're so political. I mean, we've gone through all of that with what we've now survived.
Yeah.
And gotten on the other side of, which we didn't look like we were going to do that for a while.
I know.
Were you political when you were?
Yeah. I was really lucky. I grew up in a household. Both my parents were really pretty radical about this. And it was interesting. At one point, my dad was kind of this gypsy, and he had like all kinds of businesses.
Like what?
He had a swimming pool cleaning business. Then he had a glass tinting company.
Was he a musician? Were either of your parents?
He played a little saxophone, but it was just enough to annoy me and make me cry. I think my mom could play a little piano. But he was one of these guys that he would just get bored. I think he was bipolar probably and had like just issues. So he would start a business, and then before it could make any money, he'd get bored and dump it and start something else. And he had a bookstore in Tarzan called Marvelous Books. I'm starting to drift off again. I want to stay focused on.
I asked you about politically active.
Oh yeah, okay, great.
I'm getting really good at this.
Good, God.
I can't follow my own train of thought, but I got
Just
yours.
put a smile on my face. There we are.
I think he looks really handsome with that mask, by the way. I like that mask. Yeah.
So one of the things he had at one point out in the San Fernando Valley, on the corner of Satakoy and Balboa, was one of those corner magazine stands out there. Excuse me.
Certainly. All right, I'm looking to see. I saw a performance at the Troubadour. Okay. Okay, I don't know what any of this means. Lee, any release date or information? Oh, we're going to get to the immediate family stuff.
Okay.
We're coming to that.
So we had the magazine stand on the corner. Then there was a big, huge kind of anti-LBJ march in front of Century City Hotel.
I was marching against.
Well, my dad was there, my sister and me. Well, at one point, a bunch of Cuban activists, came up and they started attacking the crowd. It was the weirdest thing. They were like pro-Russia and all this stuff. I mean,
Wow.
it was like this weird part of all
like
that.
a hybrid.
Yeah.
Not hybrid.
And at one point, this one guy comes up towards my dad, starting to wants to hit him with a sign.
Oh, Jesus.
And my dad grabs a sign like this. They take a picture of it. Well, one of the things my dad sold at the magazine stand was newspapers, and one of them was the Herald Examiner. He comes in the morning, and the front page of the Herald Examiner is a picture of him looking like he's going to hit this guy with a sign. He had just pulled it out of the guy's hands, but the picture was him going like this.
Oh my
and there
God.
were all this rioting down there and stuff. And he came in, and he was going to have to sell these to all his customers.
Oh
and
my
everything.
God, that's
So,
hysterical.
it was fantastic.
That's hysterical. Okay, so let's get to the immediate family. So another question I asked you. Oh, great, we have
I
to
brought
show.
you this.
Thank you. Are you going to sign that too? I have a silver
Absolutely.
pen actually.
No, I was going to just open a vein and do a vein in blood for
I
you.
would rather. I love the. I was just telling you. I love the new logo for.
Yeah.
Now, tell. All right.
IF.
I hate going out of order on things, but yes. What is IF Talks?
What we're going to do is we're going to try to every week just have a little thing where people can write in questions, and we're just going to do like a Zoom film and just talk about it. Or if we're together, we're just going to do it. We're just trying to up our social media presence, and I think it's one of these things that'll just be fun to. I like interacting. I love doing things like this. Like coming here to me is heaven. This is it's just great to do this, and that's.
And you know what? I'm going to hug him because I can. Because we're vaxxed and we can.
Oh, it's amazing! It's amazing.
We haven't even talked about the COVID. All right, before we get to
I
the
felt
immediate
so
family.
bad for you. It's because you were posting so much about just the feeling of isolation and everything.
It was
It's
rough
really
for me,
hard
because I was
not being
alone.
with a family. Or
This is the
anything.
first time my
Yeah.
kids are in. I hadn't seen Samantha in 15 months.
I mean,
I
that's
missed
so
her
insane.
entire 22nd year,
Yeah.
and this is the first time that she's home. My son has not had who lives in LA. We only ate outside. He's going to come for his first meal in the house
Wow.
tonight.
Wow.
I mean,
It's been hard on everybody, but I was following you so much on there, and it was always seeing it's like you're trying
I
to
was
be
a tragic.
no, but you're trying to be positive and uplifting, but that same thing was taking a toll on everybody.
Sure.
And it was good that you were expressive about it, because it makes people realize they're not alone with this stuff. So I mean, this is one of these things that I think is so valuable about doing things like these podcasts, because things come up where people feel a sense of community.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
that's
I was doing it 7 days a week for
Yeah.
the first many months, and then 5 for. Yeah.
yeah. At a
Because-
certain point, you just have to go. Geez,
Yeah,
this
now I'm
is
down
so-"
to 3, because 3, yeah.
Well, you can kind of gear content and things like that too when you're doing.
Well, it's
things.
also I'm getting screwed by the Facebook fuckery.
I don't know what the hell they're doing. Why? It's like get it right and then leave it alone. But they're always like screwing with things. It's like you just get used to a format, and then so they go,
And they
"We got
change
the new look for you," and you go, "Where the hell did everything go?"
I know, I hate the, I call it the new Facebook. I've had it for like 6 months already. I don't know, they just keep making it less and less interesting.
Yeah.
Blander and blander. Just more room for ads and
That's
all of that
that's
kind
what
of
it's
stuff.
all about.
And I'm sure the fuckery is happening because they think that I'm making money from it.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm being of service. This is not
Yeah.
a financial, because I don't know, my kids are going to teach me how to make a living. Both my kids now have serious jobs.
Well, maybe you ought to do. I just started with Cameo.
Well, nobody wants my cameo though, Lee. I'm only Vicki Abelson. I'm not Lee Sklar.
Doesn't matter. I mean, just throw it up there. But it was weird. I just came on day before yesterday, and today I did two birthday greetings and 2 anniversaries.
It's wonderful.
For
Oh, you're going to get bombarded because your fans are going to go nuts.
Well, I'm just looking at ways of staying in touch.
Okay, so let's talk about how COVID impacted you, because this is the COVID crazies after all.
Yeah.
So we did have one interview at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what was on your agenda when everything shut down?
Well, I had a tour in Japan. I was supposed to go over and do this really great gig that might still happen next year, but in Switzerland
With?
with Martin Tillman. he's an electronic cellist. He does all the Hans Zimmer's movies. He's in all this stuff. And we did a really great album together, and we were supposed to go over and do this big concert, and then it's been put off like 3 times, and now it's...
So that's something that's like huge over there, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then I was supposed to go over and do, I think, the bass show in London. There was a lot of travel and then some touring on the East Coast, and everything disappeared like a fart in a windstorm. It was like done, gone, you know. And I was just sitting there going, wow, this is weird. I mean, just...
And the immediate family had kind of was new. It was still kind of
Well,
new.
it was still pretty fresh at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
we had an album. Well, actually, when the pandemic hit, we had finished a new album, which is now coming out August 27th.
There you go, Toby.
So yeah, it's August 27th will be the release date for the album. It was supposed to be out last November. But we thought, why release it? We can't go do anything with it.
Right.
Can't promote it or gig it or anything like that. So we
Are
just...
these new songs?
It's all new songs.
It's all new
All new
songs.
stuff. It's stuff that this is not as new. That stuff is really new. And the thing we're really fortunate with is we're signed to a label called Quarto Valley Records, and it's
They just released T-Bears.
they have T-Bear, and we talked to them over there, and we said, look, during this period we've also been writing more material. So they said, go cut it. So next week we're going into Jackson Brown's studio, and we're going to spend a week and cut a whole bunch of new material for next year.
Nice.
And then we'll get the new album out, and hopefully when the new album comes out, it will be close to when the documentary film's done by Denny.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah. So Denny Tedesco is the son of Tommy Tedesco.
The Wrecking Crew.
The Wrecking Crew. Tommy was probably one of the greatest studio guitarists, musicians who ever lived. I spent so much time working with this guy, and he was an absolute treasure.
Like what kind of stuff?
Everything.
Everything. Tell me a couple.
Oh, I mean, if you're listening to like Bonanza, he's the guitar on.
No, but that you did with him.
Just shows like Airwolf, movies. I mean, TV shows and all this crap.
Okay.
It was just we were session guys.
Right.
And so when he finally passed, his son Denny made this movie called The Wrecking Crew. It's a great must-see film about the great musicians of the late 50s, 60s, mostly. Hal Blaine and Carol Kay and all these people, because they were really unsung heroes. Because during that period of time,
they hid them. They hid them.
There was no credits on albums for the musicians. Where when we started with James Taylor, Peter Asher insisted that our names appear on the
Fantastic.
record. We all owe so much to Peter. It's just ridiculous.
Really? Was that the start of?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. So Denny did this great movie, and then they came and they approached us. It's been about 2.5 years now, I think, something like that.
I talked to Denny about a year and a half ago at NAMM, I feel like it's been,
And they decided they thought they should make a movie about our group of people. And you're living in your own skin, and you don't see it. So I kind of go, really? Why us? Kind of thing. But he said the real thing was, he said the Wrecking Crew was a force for about 10 years.
Is that all?
It was, pretty much the 60s was their run as a really solid section and all that. And he said they never toured with anybody. They never left the studio. That was their gig. They made the records. And people didn't know.
Wait, now P.F. Sloan was doing a lot of singing. Phil was doing a lot of he was like really jamming, like all those guys.
Yeah.
So was he part of?
I don't remember as vocalists. I knew the Wrecking Crew as the players, but it was probably
because he was a vocalist that was like on every. Yeah. It was his voice on like everything.
See, that's the thing that's crazy. It's like when people would listen to everything from Mamas and Papas to Frank Sinatra to the Beach Boys. It wasn't them on the records. I mean, maybe vocally on a lot, but it was mostly those people playing.
Right.
The Association and all of
those.
But so when Denny approached us, he said the real difference is, to them, this isn't an extension of that. This is a whole other thing. Because he said, we've been together 50 years instead of 10 years. We're still working. We've written songs for the artists. We've toured with the artists, produced the artists. So it's a whole different approach to it. And it really evolved where Danny Korchmar got a record deal.
I was
with
going
a
to say, tell
Japanese
us how the name
Yeah, so Cooch got a record deal with a Japanese label.
And when was this?
Probably about 5 years ago, four
Okay.
and a half, 5. I'm losing track of time on this stuff, that's for sure. But it was...
In a pandemic, it's easy to do.
I think what the label's Vivid Records was the Japanese label. And when it came time to fulfill his album deal, he kind of figured we'd all be out of town and stuff. But what had happened was Cooch had been living on the East Coast. Well, he moved back to Los Angeles, and he moved down near the marina. And he ended up hooking up with Steve Postel down there.
And that's a new relationship.
That is. It's all pretty new. I mean, I had known Steve for about 16 years now. I did
30,
yeah, you guys
or something, yeah.
And I'd worked on some of his projects, and then when he would do his Night Train Social Club, I'd go play the gigs with him and stuff like that. Well, Steve and Danny developed this relationship, and they started doing pre-production for a potential album. Well, when Cooch called Russ and I, it happened that the window he was talking about, we were in town. So we ended up going into Jackson Brown's studio.
Did Steve produce?
No. As an executive producer, Fred Mullen he's a guy who used to be a partner with Matthew McCauley, and I did a bunch of stuff with them, like Randy Edelman and different projects, and Jimmy Webb. But it was a situation that Nico Bolas was engineering for us, who's doing all the new stuff and worked with Neeks all the time. We were available. Waddy wasn't. Waddy was out with Stevie Nicks at this point, but he was going to be back the last day. So we were in for 3 days and 4 days, and then we cut the album. And when it was all finished, we all kind of sat there and listened to it. And when they asked Cooch, what is this going to be called for the Japanese release, and he said, "This is like my immediate family. I mean, we really are immediate." And so
it was just off the cuff like that?
Yeah, so it was one of these things that the Japanese release we did at that point was called Danny Korchmar and the Immediate Family. We got that album was finished. Then when we decided we need to continue doing this is way too much fun, it became the Immediate Family. And then
well, also, I remember the first time I interviewed you, and you were saying that your one, I don't want to call it a regret, but your one wish would have been that you would have been in one band. Because then you would have just had to learn one set of songs, and you could have had that longevity and made all that, all of that happen. But it's late in life. Yeah. It's never too. But it looks to me like this is the thing.
Well, it's got legs.
It's got legs.
Yeah. I mean, it's really kind of unbelievable that.
Old Fakakis would get, get this big thing.
Not only that, but we would get our shot. Yes. Just at a time when the whole industry shuts down. It's like one of those things where you're just kind of going, timing is everything, and boy, this is just shit timing right now.
But you guys have managed to make it work.
We're working our butts off during this. We've done a lot of videos, we've released EPs, we're going to do more recording, and now we've got stuff lined up for later in the year.
Something's coming out.
I think this Friday is our new video. For 345, Steve's song.
Oh, that's a great song.
And the video's great.
Is it?
Yeah.
You always do something funny. Did you do something funny?
I'm not sure if it was funny in this one, but the worst thing I did in this one is I have a double neck bass that Warwick built me, and I used that for the video. It's the heaviest damn thing. Oh. So I'm just up there going, man, this is killing me. But it's a performance video. It's mostly us performing the song, and then some shots of us in the control room. Mikey, who does the videos, is really, really good. And Can't Stop Progress was good, and Cruel Twist, and all this stuff. So we're making this as productive a period as we possibly can.
Okay, so we're during COVID. You were doing everything virtually. But you guys started breaking out of virtual before the vax thing. No?
We did.
You did a concert.
We did two things. We did one thing at the Coach House, but we were totally mass distanced everything there. And then we did another live stream from DW Drums. Those are the only times we saw each other over the year, and all the crew, everybody, and then we had temperatures and all that stuff. But when everybody got their shots, then now we've got our band bubble. And so now we've been getting together and playing and stuff and getting this new material ready to go in the studio.
You know, I'm sitting here looking at you, and I just got really nostalgic. It's like, we are doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time,
This was not on the agenda.
this was not, I mean, until you said it, last week or the week before, I would not have even considered that I was ready to do this. I'm only doing it with you. Yeah, it's not something I feel ready to do.
Open up to the world.
No, I'm not ready to do that, but I don't.
Because you're going to burn my body when this is over with anyhow. If this is my last.
Maybe burn mine. I don't know.
We'll build a pyre outside here.
People fire. So how so you started coming out of COVID craziness. You shocked. I remember you were going to like early morning and
Yeah, the thing that really sucked was Gelson's up here in La Cañada had their senior thing. It's like 7 to 8 in the morning or something. I thought, hell, I'm going to go up there. And, there's got to be some perk to being an old fart. So I'm going to go up there, besides, the blue plate special and things like that. And I go up there and they hadn't restocked yet. They were starting to restock. So they had all the old seniors in there, but they had nothing on the shelves. I was going, this is bullshit. You're bringing these people out at the crack of dawn to have them come in a store that you haven't put anything on the shelves yet. So I didn't bother with that. I've been very, not hesitant, but I've been very kind of methodical about when I would go out, because there were projects I was doing around the house where I needed to go to like Ace Hardware or Home Depot or something. So I kind of just go and keep my distance from everybody, focus on what I needed to do and get the hell out, not wander the aisles and stuff.
Do you feel differently now, having been vaccinated?
I'll tell you, the most amazing thing to me was, and it was like almost unconscious though, the minute you get that shot, you sort of feel like there's a kind of a weight starts to lift off of you, where you kind of go, if I go out today, odds are I'm not going to die, I'm not going to get sick. I mean, you might get sick, there's still a possibility, but nothing's going to be fatal.
Deadly, yeah.
And then when I got the second shot, and it was really good in Pasadena, they did it at Pasadena City College in the parking structure. And so went in there, and literally if it wasn't for like the 10 minutes they have you sit afterwards waiting to see if you're going to go into anaphylactic shock or something. It could have been in and out in 5 minutes.
Don't even start. 6 hours.
I had all these friends that went to Dodger Stadium, to the Forum, to Cooch ended up going up to near Magic Mountain and all this stuff. But we're a separate municipality over in Pasadena, and so they had Moderna was the drug of availability.
And the drug of choice, and you didn't have any.
No side effects from it at all.
It kicked my
But
ass.
they gave me the option. I did the suppository, and it gets into your bloodstream much quicker and stuff, and there's not quite as many side effects with that one. Just squirm around a little bit for a while and chew it up.
So you
Sorry.
So you've eaten. I have not eaten inside a restaurant yet. I've done a lot of restaurant eating outside. The thought of everybody taking off their masks, maybe not be vaccinated and eating and stuff. But
I've done one.
You've done one.
Yeah.
And how did you feel? Because I find, though, that I have this terror before I go and do something new. Like I went to Target, I went to Costco.
Or the first time we talked, there was a terror to it also.
But I find that when I'm out there in the world, I was agoraphobic to go out, but I'm not when I'm out there.
Okay.
So we went out for Mother's Day to Din Tai Fung. Have you been
Okay,
to?
no, I haven't.
It's the best.
Where's that?
Dim Sum. It's on brand. It's part of the Americana, but on the outside, but it's the best dim sum like in the world. Like Phil, somebody feed Phil. It's in Shanghai. He ate there like 3 times when he was there. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
So anyway, we went there for Mother's Day, and it was a long way. Well, it might be a little quicker if you eat inside. And I was like, no, I want to eat outside.
Yeah.
And then as I was looking around, I was like, I can do this. The ceilings were really high. The tables. We ended up eating outside, but I'm thinking I'm getting there.
Yeah, you're working baby steps.
So do you feel that Like, are you ready to get on a plane? Oh, I'm not ready to get on a plane. Are you
Well,
ready to get on a plane?
I'm not. My wife this Saturday is flying to Tucson. Her sister just moved to Tucson, so
Okay.
I'm going to take her to LAX, and she's going to fly. She's had her shots and everything. She's going to wear them at this point. I mean, if I had to go somewhere, I might consider doing it. I'm not that I'm generally not that enthusiastic, even though I fly constantly.
Right.
Just because flying's just become such a pain in the ass, just to go through TSA and all the stuff you have to go through. But I'm going to have flights starting, I think, in late July.
Okay, so tell us what's coming up as your life gets bigger. What's going to happen?
Well, Peter Asher contacted me. He's going to be doing. Peter Asher's one-man show is a fantastic show that he does.
Oh.
It's one of the most interesting things where he talks. His history in the music business is deep, and he presents it in a really unique way. And his show is some live music, a lot of video stuff. He talks about when McCartney lived in their house when he was dating Jane, Peter's sister.
I remember.
And I mean, it's deep. So he's going to go do this, and it's going to be Peter and Kate Taylor is doing it, and
James's sister.
James's sister.
Wow.
And so we'll do some of the music from her new album. And we've got a small
Did
band.
Peter produce that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he produced it 50 years ago too. So, we're going to have a small band, and the thing that's really cool about it is Peter has a book out, and Kate's done a book. So we're gonna hit bookstores.
Nice.
On all the time, and we'll have them at
Nice.
the swag counter and all that.
Nice.
So the difference is, I think their books are about this big, and then I'm dragging this elephant with me.
How are you going to take all those?
Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna probably put a pallet together and ship it back to Kate's managers in New Jersey, and they said we can just, once it's there, then we can like load it with the equipment.
Cool.
That we're doing. So we'll figure it out.
And so you're going to do that with how long?
It's only going to be like 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that.
And
So we'll fly back, and we'll probably just be busing. And then the immediate
that's what I was
family
going to ask
is
next.
we've got some gigs. I think we have a West Coast run like towards the end of October, and then East Coast in the first part of November. I think we're going to be from Philadelphia up to New Hampshire.
And what kind of venues are you going to be doing?
I don't know. We'll find out what's getting booked. But one of the things I'm trying to help set up is Steve Bailey at Berkeley College in Boston's been saying, they would love to have the band come there and maybe do like a couple of day residence, do some master classes and performances.
Nice.
So we're trying to sort that out for either just go early and do it then, or stay on and do it. Since we're going to be in that part of the country, it'd be easy to go back to Boston and do it. So we'll see what happens with that. And then we were supposed to do this past February, a couple of months ago, a thing called the Rock Legends Cruise, which we did. It's the last gig we did the year before last.
I remember Waddy was nervous because
About going on the ship.
Yeah, because the COVID thing had already.
It had hit in Asia. I mean, that was the thing. There was boats in like China and stuff they were dealing with it. And we said, well, this is Florida, the Grand Cayman, so.
It actually was Steve Postel's gig at Molly Malone. That was the last time I saw you.
Oh, okay.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
So they asked us to come back, and then they had to cancel it. So now next February we're doing that again, but I think things might really
Are we
start
going to be
to
ready for cruises in February? Do you
I
think?
don't know. I just don't know.
That
But
seems
all
like-
the contracts that we're signing have escape clauses.
Right.
If things aren't good, we're not doing it.
Right.
We're not going to put ourselves or an audience in danger. Even
Right.
we've all had our shots,
Right.
but I don't think anybody should put themselves in
I
danger.
think that the variant, especially the India variant, which is so unknown right now, is still something.
So we're still in the holding pattern. I mean, the thing we need to do is we need to get things in the book.
Right.
You can always bail on it, but you can't get the gigs if
Right.
everybody else is eating them all up.
Right.
So we'll see what happens with all this. But right now we're just anxious. We just want to be playing. I mean, like every other musician.
So how often do you guys get together and play?
Well, we're going to get together this coming week for 2 or 3 days to review what we did the last couple of weeks, where we were spending about 4 days a week working on this new material. And we've got about 8 things really ready to go. So we're going to review those for a couple of days, and then the following week we're going to be in, I think, Monday through Friday in the Jackson studio.
Nice.
And
That has to be thrilling.
it's great.
It
Well,
has to be
it's your
thrilling.
life's blood is flowing again,
Yeah.
because that's what we all thrive on. And and to have that taken away was weird. I mean, you understand why, you can intellectualize all this stuff and understand what's going on, but it still sucks.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So do you feel it too at home? Like, how is your day different?
Oh, totally.
How so?
Well, totally, because I get up in the morning. It's sounded like a blues tune. I got up in the morning. That's enough. That's enough. Everything after that in a blues tune is horrible. No, but I get up and I take care of some stuff around the house, and I'll feed the dogs and take care of all that. Then I focus on my YouTube.
Right.
At that point.
Now that's all the same as what you were doing before.
Well, not before. I mean, I had never.
No, but I mean COVID.
Yeah,
Same.
I mean, nothing's really changed.
Oh, okay.
During COVID, yeah.
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
asking.
the only thing that might change is the possibility of going somewhere for dinner or lunch. But for the most part, we don't do that at all. I mean, like I said, I've only eaten indoors once. It's twice now, but in the same restaurant. But they have really big booths, and they have plexiglass up between them and all that kind of stuff. So, but to me, it's all baby steps through this stuff. I mean, I'm for a long time, we had that tunnel, and the light at the end of the tunnel was a train coming at us that was going to kill us.
It's true.
Yeah, and now it's, you kind of look at the end of that, and there's the possibility of all of this being getting a lot better. But you also have to remember that because it's maybe getting better locally, our job is a global job. And when I look at what's going on in India and in Brazil and all these other places, and so many areas where things got good and then they let their guard down and then they're back up again, and UK, Germany, all these places, and different parts of this country. I mean, up in Michigan, the numbers are like soaring up there.
Tristan's from Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a drag that when you turn on the news and you see spring break, and you see thousands of kids down in Florida.
How is Florida not just... Why isn't it running rampant in Florida? How is it possible?
Unless they're just not being honest about what's going on.
They must not be being honest.
But I don't know. To me, that's what was making me crazy when people like Sammy Hagar and Clapton and these guys were all going, we got to open up the concerts. And I'm going,
well, they were also anti-vaxxing.
Yeah, well, it's not only that, but it's a situation where you go, who's the safest person at the gig? You. You're going to be coddled to that stage and everything. What about all those people down below that are just there for hours all mashed in like sardines? And I'm concerned about how these things are going to be policed. Like when they talk about, well, it's, the place holds 18,000, but we're only going to let 8,000 in or something like that. Well, what if in the middle of a concert these people all want to take their masks off and then rush the stage? I mean, when you see people getting in fights at a Walmart over a mask, what's going to happen when you've got thousands of people at a concert? So I don't know.
Drunk and stoned and all of that stuff on top of it.
I don't know what's going to happen with this. I mean, I'm glad at this point that there's going to be a bunch of things going on out there concert-wise that'll be interesting to watch and see how they go before.
Are things happening like soonish?
Yeah, well, Genesis is going to be, their tour's happening, and they're doing Europe in September and the States in October, November. And those are going to be huge gigs. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. The thing that was great about those guys was they had, early on in this, they had booked a facility in London where we had rehearsed with Phil to do his tour. This big, huge sound stage there. So they had booked it to do their all production and all that stuff, but they didn't know if the tour was going to happen. But Tony Smith, and this is why I love these guys, he said, well, we'll get the whole show together here, and then we'll mothball it until the time is right. But he said, at least at this point, all these crew guys have 6 weeks of work. And they had no outbreaks in there. They had COVID police on the thing. Everybody who flew over was quarantined. They were taking temperatures every day and testing people, and they said they had no problems during the whole thing. But the idea, because the people who got in this business who really got nailed were the crews. Because most of those guys are living week to week on their paychecks, and all of a sudden, no touring, no nothing. The caterers, all the people of those. There's so many. When you go out and do a concert tour, man, it's an onion. The band is that first layer, but you can sit there, or like an artichoke, you can just sit there peeling this thing. And there's so many levels of janitorial staff in the venues, the people that are printing all of the tickets, and
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable. The swag, all this
Right.
stuff. So, so it was really great that they felt compelled to at least put all these people to work for like 6 or 7 weeks of rehearsal, just so they would have an income.
Well, I am really thrilled that you suggested this, and I am sitting here with you,
Yeah.
and it feels
Oh,
so right and so normal. Lee,
I know.
thank you so much for doing this.
Oh,
And
it's-
you're gonna sign up. I'm gonna buy my book. You're gonna sign it, and you're gonna play one more song for us.
I think we should play again. We had.
I
such a
think you
nice
should
time.
play
I
again.
think
So
everybody's heard this crap.
I'm
let's-
gonna get out of here.
We'll just do a little more blues.
Give me 60 seconds.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tristan's gonna go get his
Well, I'll show everybody something fun here if they can see it.
That's a beauty.
This is my Warwick built this, and this
wow,
is my.
that is gorgeous.
Well, this is my special producer switch that has all these different sounds. So
Yeah.
if somebody's listening, a producer's listening, and you go, I don't like that sound, you'll flip this and you go, how's that? I don't know if I like that. And then you go like that. I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that one. I don't know about that. Well, if you don't like any of them, then they win. Then there's an inlaid hand giving the finger. And all it is a 9-volt battery and some lights. This doesn't do anything.
This has to be new.
Oh yeah, this is a couple years old now, but
That
Warwick
is
built this.
That is hysterical. A lit finger. I love it.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh my god. Alright.
It's the Warwick, James said.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic. I don't want to touch the thing because I might mess it up. So, all right, here's Tristan. This is again Tristan Cappel, in from New York.
E flat again. We'll just play off in some more blues, so we'll just go. Great, yeah.
Abelson home. Thank you so much.
Killing
Tristan.
it, killing it.
Thank you. Thank you all. I will see you next week virtually again, I think, unless Lee's going to come back.
I'm not going to leave. I'm like gum on your shoe.
Thank you, Lee.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Samantha.